Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Becoming Anchored podcast. My name is Laura Deneen. I am your host for today, and I'm joined by the lovely Heidi Hensley. She is a therapist here at Anchored Counseling Co., and we are just so grateful for her wisdom and expertise and heart and soul and all the things. She's actually been on the show with me a couple times before, and I'm really excited for the content for today. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. We really are all about accessing hope, and we really believe that hope is fundamental to the human experience. And we're also here to support you as you navigate your relationship with your body. We really want to support you in moving towards gentleness and tenderness and care with your body. If you are local to Tennessee, we would love to work with you. If not, we do encourage you to find a therapist local to you. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you so much for having me again. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so in full transparency, yesterday we were in the kitchen and Lauren had something else pop up on her schedule unexpectedly. And so I was like, hey, Heidi, do you want to come join me for 2 episodes? And she's just been such a trooper. And so I'm so grateful to have you here on a Friday morning.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of topics are things that I think are really important. They're things that I spend a lot of time professionally and personally dealing with. So I think that this is work that's worth doing too.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the topic in today's episode, we are going to be talking about I don't like my weight. Now what? Big topic.
Probably a really common topic. Probably a thought that a lot of people have at least had, if not shared with other people. I feel like in my opinion, I try to not live in diet culture, but I do. And so I hear it a lot. I feel like it's become a really easy topic for people to spend time focusing on, even together. Friends can ruminate on how much they dislike their body, dislike their weight, dislike their size. So I think it's a topic worth talking about in this realm of how do we view that? What do we think about that as professionals who work with body image and eating disorders and disordered eating and all those topics?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's become a point of connection, I think, for a lot of individuals, whether people are in middle school, high school, college, professionally. It doesn't stop right until we actually do the work and pause and internally kind of, I think, reorient and maybe get curious about what our beliefs are.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a point of connection, which is really sad because connection is wonderful for us as humans. But if we are connecting on that topic of body bashing or critiquing parts of our bodies or our bodies as a whole, that can be really harmful to us as well.
I think a lot of the assumption is, in these ideas of diets, fad diets, different ideas of how to restrict food, is the assumption that, of course, everyone wants to change their body. Most people aren't happy with their weight, so this is an easy topic to bring up in a group lunch or brunch. And I think that is so interesting, that the assumption is well, yeah, most people will agree that they want to do something to change their weight.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It's absolutely an assumption, and it really disregards all of the struggles that I think might be present at that lunch table, right? Of whether somebody is going through a medical complexity, or perhaps they're in recovery from an eating disorder, or maybe their friend or family member is. And so I think it can really be an assumption. And I love that as a society and as a culture, we are starting to move in the direction of talking more about body image and the importance of peace with one's body, but we still certainly have a long way to go.
But also this idea, medically, that's been adopted by a lot of people is health at every size. And so I think there are assumptions made even professionally by doctors and other medical professionals that a person of this weight would obviously benefit from changing their weight. And I love that there are so many professionals getting on board with the idea that while weight can be a marker of certain change, it's not a marker of health or wellness.
Yeah. So if you're seeing a new client and you're really exploring the topic of health with them, what do you share might fit into that pie, so to speak, of what health represents beyond just physical health?
Beyond physical health. I think I was talking about this recently, actually, this idea that like health and wellness is identified in such a fluid way. Like what I need for my health and wellness today is not the same as what I needed 20 years ago. It's not going to be the same in 20 years in the future either. So like this idea of like being open to like as your body changes, your needs changing too. So like nutritional needs or even like emotional needs or like what does my support group look like? All of those things change. All of those things are on like some fluid idea that like what you need today is not what you'll need in the future. It's also not what your friend needs. It's not what your mom needs. It's not what your sister needs.
Yeah.
It's very personalized. But I would start that conversation with the idea of like, where in your life do you feel unsupported? Where do you feel like there is a lacking or a sadness? And kind of explore more of what that area could entail. That would be where I would start, because to me, health and wellness is such a personalized kind of like, I picture it like a pie graph.
Yeah.
And which part of your pie graph do you like wish was bigger or like more robust? Because health and wellness is defined by the individual when it comes to like this spiritual, social level.
Sure, totally. Like what do your relationships look like, both personally or professionally? Do you have people that support you? What does your mental health look like? What does your social or spiritual health look like, if that's something that's important to you? Yeah, and I love this perspective because I think one of the things that I have had the gift of learning in my own therapy experience is the benefit of zooming out. Especially in the context of weight, right? Because we can get so hyper-focused on that number. And of course, I think good body image therapists will attune to that concern, right? They're not just going to tell a client to not worry about it, right? That's not an effective intervention. And you and I both know that. So we're going to hold that concern with like tenderness while also at the same time talking about all of these things that we're talking about today on the show. And part of, examining our beliefs about health is the ability to zoom out and look at, okay, sure, if physical health is something that's important to you, like that's amazing. And of course we want all of our clients to live like long, beautiful lives. But how can we like zoom out a little bit and look at all of the other pieces that might go into what health represents for you?
You're right. I think it's worth being transparent about that we do live in a diet culture.
Sure.
That their focus on a number or a size makes sense. I get where it comes from for me. Where does it come from for you?
Yeah.
Exploring that with them and letting them be heard about where their story of diet culture comes from.
Yeah.
What perpetuates it, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And also being honest about like thin privilege.
Yeah.
And not trying to dismiss their experience of what it might be like to be in their body and what it might be like to be this size or to be this weight or whatever they are coming in distressed about, because there is a reality that diet culture exists. It gives us these messages. It's hard to like get out of, to like break free of those clouds of diet culture and see the blue sky. That's hard.
Yeah.
And I think if you dismiss someone as like their concern about their weight or their body size, you're missing the point of their experience and what they're trying to convey to you about what's hard about this.
It's so good. So good. Yeah, as y'all can tell, Heidi is super wise. And I love like just hearing the language that you use. As therapists, I think it's important to always be learning and growing, and we grow and learn from each other. So thank you for
That's
that
what I love
wisdom.
about the podcast is hearing all the other people that come on in their language and the way that they word things and see things and talk about things. It because I feel like it's going to stick for somebody. The language that you use is going to resonate with the right person. So I think that's the good thing of having like rotating people on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think too, back to what you shared about, bodies and bodies at large, right? It's not lost on us today that I am in a thin body, right? That we are both in thin bodies and smaller bodies. And so I love what you shared about like really being intentional, even as providers, about not dismissing someone else's lived experience.
Right.
It's so important. And honestly, I really am a firm believer that like bringing this awareness into the room allows for safety for our clients that might have different bodily experiences than us, whether that's like a different body shape or size or ability or disability or health concern, right? Whatever it might be, allows for more safety in the therapeutic alliance as well. And so, yeah, I mean, when someone's coming to us and they're telling us like, I am so concerned about my weight, I've always wanted to change my weight. And oftentimes, right, a lot of that looks like, I've perpetually pursued weight loss and I'm tired of this cycle.
Yes.
It sounds like where you're going to start with somebody is both like rewinding the tape of their lives, right? And looking at, so that's the past, kind of looking at the past and what might have led to their views about their weight itself, right? And the present of like looking at, okay, what are maintaining factors for the distress around the weight? What do you believe about your weight? Where did this come from? Is there someone in your life that might be encouraging to pursue intentional weight loss? All of those things are, I think, helpful questions just to really get a clear picture about what that client might be struggling with.
Yeah. One thing that has been interesting too is talking with people that are adolescents that still have a high influence of their parents in their life, and their parents struggling to understand the adolescent's point of view of why would my kid be worried about being overweight? She's never been in a bigger body. That has been something that's come up a lot, is like, how do people in our lives try to empathize with our experience of our bodies when they don't judge our bodies the way that we judge our bodies? And so finding out how that individual judges their body, that is really important to understanding and being able to help them.
Right.
Instead of us judging their bodies and saying, well, you really shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
Because you fit into diet culture. You fit into this thin ideal, so you shouldn't feel X, Y, or Z. That does come up a lot. So I think it's interesting, we talk about the individual that might feel this way, but also like think about if you're on the outside of a friendship and your friend feels this way, how do you support them in that struggle instead of just dismissing what they're saying because they fit into the thin ideal?
Yeah, that's a really, really valid point. And what we refer to here is really looking at this like idealized body. And so one way to think about that is like a body that we hold up on a pedestal, right? And so I think Heidi would definitely agree with me on this, but we both believe that there's like no such thing as a perfect body. But the problem is we are sold this message in our culture that if we can do X, Y, Z, whether that's like movement of some kind or eating a certain way or whatever it might be, or restrictive behaviors, we can attain this like idealized body. And the reality is like that is a lie that we are sold every day. And so it's like you talked about, right? It's incredibly hard to live in this culture, and really it's countercultural for most of our clients and for us at large, right? As providers who are treating these concerns. So really exploring, like that adolescent, right? Like, where did you learn about this idealized body that you placed on a pedestal? What messages maybe really stuck over the years about like what your weight should or shouldn't be? And once we start asking these questions, it really opens up the door to like beautiful dialogue with clients and unpacking that, right? So a lot of my clients, and I'd be curious to hear about your experiences as well, but a lot of my clients will be like, oh yeah, I read like a book once or like flipped through a magazine and there was like a specific number and that stuck in my brain, or I watched a TV show and that stuck in my brain, or I went to a pediatrician when I was younger and they recommended that I lose weight. And so that number that they gave me is sticking in my brain now, even like 20, 30 years later, right? So I think it demonstrates just like how impactful these experiences are. And I think for a lot of individuals, we could even say like traumatic. But I'm curious, like, do you have any other things that stand out to you as far as like where clients learn about the idealized body?
I hear a lot of the pediatrician, which is why I get so encouraged when pediatricians, I think, at least in our community, by and large, have really come to this idea of like wanting to learn more about eating disorders. But I do hear a lot of the pediatrician, when children are young, has weight concerns, says things like they should lose a few pounds, or like kind of maybe vague, but the idea sticks with this child into adulthood that, like, I always need to be worried about my weight. That's the message that they got, and that's the message that they stick with. And so as vague as that is, it's still very detrimental.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of, like, cultural family influence.
Yeah.
Where either parents have their own limitations of not understanding the damage that might be done by focusing on weight, or this idea of what people think their parents expect of them might have been created instead of explicitly said. So there's I get a lot of, like, family influence. So I'll see people that are, like, in their 20s and 30s that are living an independent life from their parents, but still very much tied to this idea that might be false, that my mom and dad are not going to be happy with me if I'm in a bigger body. So those are the two things that I hear the most, is, like, family influence, and then, like, one or two experiences as a child with a medical professional that kind of stuck with them, that made them constantly focused on being sure that they are not overweight.
Which is really, like, sad, right? Because we know that it's absolutely appropriate for children to, like, gain weight as they grow up.
Their bodies to change and grow.
Right. And that is such a fundamental, like, need that they have. And there is, like, that position of power, I think, that adds to the complexity of it, right? Like, when we think about, like, medical providers or doctors at large, we tend to, you know, hold what they tell us tightly because we're like, oh my goodness, they're a doctor and they must be right. And so I think even giving clients permission to, like, name that as a possible traumatic experience, to feel their feelings around what was said to them at a tender young age when they needed something different, like permission to grieve that experience, all of those things are some of the things that we're going to work on as we are, like, discussing their concerns about weight.
Yeah. I think it's nice to go back and try to find some compassion for that little girl or boy in the pediatrician room and their experience of, like, that could have been confusing. It could have been mean is what you thought it was. Like, what was your experience when you were there? And so, like, I think it's nice practice. I'm always going to go the route of self-compassion, though.
I love it.
That's kind of what I do. But I think it's a nice start to start to frame it as, like, this was said to you, this was your experience, instead of this is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Because they absorbed it as a child, and now they're an adult or they're an adolescent and they're older. So let's go back and think about this message and think about how helpful it is.
Yeah.
Do we want to keep it? Do we need to keep it exactly as it is?
Yeah. Well, we're going in and, like, doing some, like, surgery in air quotations around that, like, trauma wound that their brain has, like, kind of held on to, right? Therapeutic surgery. I've actually never used that term, but maybe I'll start, right? I know that's, like, a little bit graphic, but that's really what's happening, right? Is we're going back and looking at some of this scar tissue so that that part of your brain can access hope and healing and hopefully hold this number a little bit more loosely. So we've talked about the historical kind of influences around weight. I'm curious, like, what do you recommend, Heidi, to clients in the present day? Maybe, I mean, from many different perspectives, whether it's, like, behaviors of what they are or aren't doing or support or whatever that looks like. How do you recommend clients start loosening that grip around that number or that idealized body?
I like to be creatively curious about what it is that they're taking in. So as people in, you know, current day, we have so much that we passively take in that we might not be really aware of. So when I say, like, passively take in, what I mean is, like, okay, when my kiddo goes to bed at 8:30, I purposefully put on, you know, my TV MA show that I love that's not appropriate for her. I'm purposely taking that in.
Yeah.
But throughout the day, I'm passively taking things in that are on the radio or on my phone, text messages from people. These are things that come into my mind or my body that I am not intentionally seeking out, but yet they still can affect me. And so I think it's interesting to find out, what are those things for people? So are you listening to any podcasts? What do you follow on Instagram? What do you see on TikTok? Because they're, you know, obviously the algorithm. you linger for 1 second on something, and then it's going to be, you know, more to your forefront. So when you open your TikTok, what is it that's showing up? A lot of times there are people that can't tell you. They're like, I don't really know. I waste time on there, but I don't really even know what I saw.
Yeah.
So like trying to bring awareness to what we're passively taking in. And like I said, that can also be text messages.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're away at college and your mom texts you, oh my gosh, I got this new weighted vest. I walked 12 miles today. That's passively taking in, this idea of exercise that might be compulsive, might be excessive, might be totally normal for her health and wellness needs. We don't know. But what does it do to you?
Yeah.
And how do you respond to that? And how do you internally respond to that? So this idea that like when we read or hear or see things, we have a thought. And that thought might be disordered. It might be, oh, I should have walked 12 miles today. That could be my automatic thought. Am I then saying, no, that's crazy. Like, that is not what I need to do.
Yeah.
That is not what is in my health and wellness goals. Or are we saying, yeah, you're right. Gosh, I'm so fat.
Yeah.
Like, how are we responding to the things that come up in us passively?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that alone can give you an idea of, like, what is the world that this person is living in every single day?
Yeah.
And on the outside, you would see none of that. It's like this idea of like, what am I passively putting into my body? How can I change what I'm passively putting into my body?
Sure.
Can I get on the Becoming Anchored podcast instead?
I love it.
Is there something more in line with my actual values and goals?
Sure.
That I could passively put in my body to substitute what this is that I'm realizing I'm taking in every day? That would be a place I start.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just that assessment of like, yeah, what am I passively taking in? I love what you mentioned as well. Like, just that intention that it takes to even be mindful of like this text from, whoever it might be that walked 12 miles or whatever. Like, how does that impact me? That takes a lot of mindfulness. It takes an intentional pause to even be able to notice that, right? And once we raise awareness around all of these pieces around the topic of like bodies, or if you want to get specific to today's episode, like weight at large, it's like there is a lot coming at people, especially the clients that we work with, or really anyone on any given day, and starting to raise awareness around how these messages might be impacting them, I think is really beautiful. And then what they're doing in response, right? So is my inner critic getting really loud? Am I going and checking my weight? Right? So what are you doing to actually reinforce these neural pathways that your weight is really important? And how is that maybe contributing to more distress for you? And so all of those things are things that we're chatting with our clients.
And those are the things that I see don't go away, even if people's weight does change. If they have this goal number in their mind and they get to it, they're not magically satisfied with their weight. They're not satisfied with their body or their amount of effort put into this goal of weight loss. And so while people think that it's productive towards their maybe idea that they need to be a lower weight, what usually happens is they get to that lower weight and none of that is different. None of it is achieved. So I think it's worth like being open about, like being transparent about, like, that's my experience as a clinician.
Yeah.
That this doesn't satisfy. And so these ideas of what is it that we're taking in, what is it that we are agreeing with or wanting to disagree with that we struggle to, that is going to persist. So how do we go ahead and talk about that now? Because it's not going to magically go away when you have any sort of certain number, certain size, whatever. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, and I mean, this is absolutely what I've found in my clinical experience as well. And, we talk a lot in the practice about like just the body image healing that takes place on the insides, right? Versus our world that tells us like, oh, change your outsides and then you'll be happy.
Yes.
And whatever that could mean for each person. Yeah. Weight is also just really complex, right? It's like there's so many different ways to kind of conceptualize someone's set point weight. That's a term that we'll use. Some people don't love that terminology. Some other people will use like biologically appropriate weight. But there's so many different factors that go into what we do weigh at any given point, right? From our genetics to chronic stressors, all the things, right? Chronic illness. And so we're acknowledging that while also acknowledging like we want to hear about someone's concern about their weight, and we also want to acknowledge that it is truly the least interesting thing about them, right? And I know that's like somewhat of a cliche in the, ED therapy world at large, but it's so important, right? Of like, how can we see you as like a person and all that's important to you, all that you value apart from like what you weigh.
Yeah, I'll ask people that are struggling with this idea about their best friend. Like, tell me about your best friend. And what do you love about him or her? And then they'll say, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, but you didn't mention their weight.
Right. No, this is like such a valid point.
Isn't their weight really important? Well, no, it's not important at all.
Do you know their weight? Right. Like you can kind of introduce some humor into this process, right? Because especially if weight is something that has been so distressing to you, it's probably going to be top of mind when you wake up, when you go to sleep, whatever time of day, it just crosses your mind, right? And so I love this intervention because it's highlighting like you are human and you are this like amazing being that has worth no matter what you weigh. And how can we like really lean into that sense of worth no matter what you look like.
And the people that love you will not list your weight or your body size on the attributes of why they love you.
Sure.
It won't be on there.
And if they do, maybe we need to work on like some boundary setting, some assertive communication, right? So that's another episode, right, of like how to deal with those types of comments if that does happen, right? But you're right. It's like if you're in a healthy, loving, kind relationship, hopefully that's not happening. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, Heidi.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Of course. I just adore you. And Heidi has just like become such an anchor in our practice here at Anchored Counseling. And, I had to use the cliche there. But so I wanted to share about a card deck that I actually recently made. This has been a fun, creative side project for me, and they actually just came in the mail, so they're sitting in boxes in my garage. But we pulled them out today, so it's called the Becoming Anchored in Peace with Your Body, and there's 61 interventions. So in the therapy world, those are things that we might kind of introduce to clients to support them and things that they can start practicing as homework. And so I actually pulled a card today just to show this to you all. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then Heidi maybe can give our homework, and then I'll read the affirmation on the back. So in this card, we talk about giving yourself permission to grieve your idealized body. Your idealized body is an unrealistic body standard or expectations you hold. This often develops due to diet culture messaging, traumatic experiences, or things that have been said to and about our bodies over the years. Grief is an inevitable part of healing body image. Grief has 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These stages are not linear. Grief ebbs and flows and is often messy. Your experience of grief does not need to be contained. Allow it to be without judgment. Perhaps you may benefit from naming your body grief today and asking yourself what you may need to move through this grief. So examples to move through body grief: talking to a therapist or loved one, creating artwork to represent your grief, and moving your body in a gentle and restorative way. So that felt pertinent to the topic today, just as we were talking about, this idealized body, weight at large. So I would love for you to close with our homework, and then I can read our affirmation for today.
Okay. My homework is usually always awareness-based, so I'm going to switch it up.
Love it.
I think it's nice to think about, maybe after this podcast, focusing on when it is that you want to, what I call check my weight, or check my body in the mirror, or check my body with my hands. And maybe bringing awareness to that and trying to intervene, trying to resist that, meaning like, I'm not going to go check my weight, trying to delay that. I'm going to do this before I go check my weight to kind of disrupt that neural pathway of like needing to do this to be sure I'm okay. Yeah. And so bringing awareness to how much it is that we're checking our weight or our body to be sure that it's okay or the same or different or whatever this anxiety is checking for, and trying to say, you know what? No.
Yeah.
Not this time. I'm not doing it right now. I don't need to.
Yeah. I love it.
This is of no consequence to who I am. And so maybe being more aware of the things that we do in that regard and trying to change our usual behaviors around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So our affirmation for today on the back of this card. So each card you'll see has the intervention and then the affirmation on the back. So I honor and hold space for the grief around my body today. Thank you, Heidi, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, lots of good nuggets in today's episode. And thank you all for listening to the Becoming Anchored podcast. Take good care. We'll see you next time.